If I ask that question, if I lead with curiosity and then they come up with that response, positive reinforcement off the back of it, great idea. What a great idea. Tell us more about that. All of a sudden you get this huge lift in the room, and all because I've been a little bit vulnerable. If people think that I didn't know the answer, so be it. We were taught that curiosity killed the cat. But what if curiosity is actually your secret weapon to extraordinary leadership? Have you ever assumed you knew why someone acted a certain way and later realised you were completely wrong? That's what happens when curiosity is missing. Welcome to the Sound Leadership, the podcast for the silent superheroes of L&D, HR and leadership, the show that helps you build awareness and inspire personal responsibility through action. Today we're unpacking curiosity and taking a deeper dive into how genuine curiosity builds deep, lasting relationships, unlocks hidden opportunities and transforms how you lead. I'm your host, Dan Boniface, and with me is Darren Draper, our resident leadership expert and co-host of Sound Leadership. Stick with us until the end, where we'll give our top 3 leadership sound bites that you can put into action. Don't forget to hit subscribe, comment, share with friends, family, colleagues, and let us know what resonates with you. Darren, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really well. Thank you. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Looking forward to talking about curiosity, which is often, I'll say often, is my number one rule for coaching and is often used when I talk about leadership and when we're delivering train-the-trainer courses. I really feel that if we lead with curiosity, then great things open up and we find out about people, we build up awareness. Let's start at the beginning and talk about how surface curiosity isn't enough. And I'm going to read out a couple of quotes to you. As you're listening to this, see if you can work out who came up with these quotes. So the first one, I have no special talents, I'm only passionately curious. And that's Albert Einstein. And the second one, curiosity is an act of vulnerability and courage. And that's Brené Brown, often heard talking about vulnerability. What are your thoughts about those two? Does that fit in with what we think curiosity is?
Yeah, and I'm going to add a third. Living is easy when eyes are closed, misunderstanding all you see. And that's from Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles, so written by John Lennon. And I think, that probably wasn't written about curiosity, well, it definitely wasn't. It certainly was written about another subject. But curiosity comes from trying to see the world differently, trying to see the world through others' eyes, trying to understand their point of view. But it's not easy. Because actually it's much easier to live in our bubble, to think we're right, to think what we've always done was the correct course of action. And so actually that deep understanding of what curiosity is, it's not just about that surface level that I'm doing it for me. I'm actually looking, I'm asking questions, I'm talking to someone because I'm generally curious to understand their point of view. Doesn't mean I'm going to change my point of view, doesn't mean that it's going to change my whole life, but I'm interested for the answers that I'm going to receive, that I could learn from it, my knowledge could increase, and I could adapt my behaviours because of it.
One of the theories we talk about a lot is the give-get, isn't it? And so we focus on the give. And I'd actually put curiosity in the give, because if I can give curiosity to someone else, i.e. ask great questions, and not just ask great questions, but ask great questions. And let's think about the intent behind a question. I'm asking that question because I'm genuinely interested in what you've got to say. Then when we look at curiosity, we're looking at that from the lens of how does that make the other person feel? So when I'm engaged, I'm genuine, I'm authentic, I'm caring about the other person that I'm communicating with, they're going to feel good. They're more likely to open up and have that conversation with us.
If we're focused just on the questions we ask, chances are we're in this get stage. I'm asking them for a reason. True curiosity isn't about asking questions. It's about the mindset you're in when you're asking those questions.
And if we look at our awareness responsibility model, so awareness creates options, gives us choices, allows us to take action and therefore personal responsibility. If we take curiosity out of that equation, it's really hard to build awareness up. So we need to lead with curiosity because it gives us awareness, because it gives us understanding of ourselves, of other people, of the situation. And therefore, we create those options, we can take action, and we can take responsibility for our own actions as well. Something that also jumps out here in terms of these two quotes for me, talents. I often talk about zero talent skills. Curiosity for me is a zero talent skill. Anyone can be curious because that's a belief and it's a behavior. I want to be curious because I'm interested in this person, because I want to learn more, because I want to develop my skills, because I want to develop your skills, knowledge, whatever that might be. So it's a zero talent skill. It doesn't require anything special to implement that, but it does require, for me anyway, the attitude to say, right, I don't know enough about this person, I don't know enough about this situation, I'm going to ask questions first, I'm going to lead with intrigue and therefore open up conversations.
And it's a zero talent skill that not everyone has. You know, how often do you ask those surface level questions? How are you today? And you get a reply, I'm okay. And we stop there. Well, what does okay mean? How, is that better than yesterday, worse than yesterday? What made you feel okay? What specific thing? That's curiosity. Often we are doing it because it's part of a process and we're not at those deeper levels of curiosity to go, yeah, but what is the meaning behind this question? And what information am I trying to gather from that other person to really understand what they're thinking at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. When we change that from you're absolutely right, how are you? Which is arguably a closed question, technically not, but arguably is in terms of how are you? Yeah, fine, thanks, I'm okay. The intent behind that isn't to extract information. The intent behind that is just, actually, I'm not really that bothered, I'm just being polite. We change that to a what's on your mind, what's been going on, what's the biggest win this week, what's your biggest challenge this week. Then all of a sudden we're showing to the other person that we are curious, that we do want to be involved in that conversation. Again, I'm going back to the questioning technique, but it's about the intent behind it. How are you is look, I'm being polite, I don't really care that much. What's on your mind is a very different feeling, and we're much more likely to get people to open up through that type of question because we're making them feel good. And remember the Mayor Angelo quote that, you know, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
And you're giving them a voice as well. You're not closing them off. You're making them feel valued as a human, as an employee, as a partner in life. And that's what we all want. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to feel valued. And sometimes those closed questions don't make us feel that. When we get showing true curiosity, that's when we start to feel valued.
Just going to open up Rackham's communication theory, where in the red zone, we're talking about that there's something in there called a shutout, which is when someone's talking, we interject, and they haven't quite finished yet, or they haven't told their whole story, and we interject. It's almost the opposite of curiosity, isn't it? Because maybe we're doing that because we're curious, but it has the negative impact if we shut someone out. So we need to be curious, but it's at the right time as well.
Definitely. And shutting out as a principle, stopping someone else from being heard, most often comes from a place of good. I'm going to finish your sentence because we're so aligned, or I'm going to butt in there because I've got something to add, or I'm going to say yes halfway through your sentence because I really agree with what you're saying, but you're still stopping someone from being heard by either you or other people that can devalue what they're saying, or people can misinterpret what they're saying. And actually it means that curiosity comes from, I want to hear that last word you say. You know, we always say in coaching, the great questions don't come from a coaching bank. They come from the questions by you responding to what they say, because you're generally curious in what they say. That's where great questions come from. And as a coach, you cannot think of a question 2 sentences before someone finishes, because what happens if there's gold dust in that last 2 sentences? So listen to every word they say, reflect on what they've said, take a couple of moments, and then choose to respond. That is pure curiosity.
Yeah, I'm really holding back there because I really wanted to contribute.
I'm judging you now.
That's the shutting out piece. And so if we look at curiosity, it's the intent of, I'm genuinely interested. I want to extract information because I'm interested or because we can build awareness. It comes back to that ultimately. We can say round about 150 to 200 words per minute. And we know most people speak within that range because our AI system 37 tells us that. So we have the research that gives us those figures. We think around 700 to 800 words per minute. So what I say in the first minute is only maybe a third or a quarter of the story. So the next step in curiosity is ask your question, and then the power of silence, allow that person to speak. Because if we shut out, if we jump in, we may only get the first minute's worth, and there was another 500-600 words to come, which is, in coaching terms, we talk about that's where the magic happens. It doesn't happen in that first instance. It happens in the next part of that. But this is true of whether you're a leader, a manager, whether you're having a conversation with your partner, whatever that might be. Be curious, ask a great question, and then be silent off the back of it.
And I think it's about not putting yourself on a pedestal. At times we want to say what we want to say. Curiosity goes, at this moment, I'm not the most important person in this conversation. I think I can learn from someone, or want to understand someone's point of view, or I just want to see the world slightly differently. So I'm not the most important, they are. So I'm going to listen, and if something really takes my interest, I'm going to go that bit further by asking those deep questions. So it isn't even coming from a place of, I want to learn, it's just coming from a human to human. I'm listening to you, you're saying something, you're giving up part of your life to have a conversation with me. I'm engaged. Otherwise, let's not have this conversation at all if I'm not.
That's the give. I'm giving you space. Yeah. I'm giving you the room to share and to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about, whether that's low stakes or high stakes situations, whether it's a fun story of something that happened to you last week, or whether it's a crucial situation at work and a negotiation that's going on, whatever that might be. What I'd like you to do now as you're listening to this is cast your mind back to a time where you think about someone that you would have had a better relationship with had you have been more curious. So, or a time that your partner or your friend, when you would have helped them more, had you have been more curious. Because I'm sure we could all come up with examples of where that conversation could have gone better had I engaged with curiosity more. So give us some sort of thoughts.
Well, my mind goes straight to, let's say, an argument with someone, whether it's your partner, a friend, or your parents. And if we take our mind back to those points, are you focused on understanding how they're feeling? Are you asking them questions? Are you listening to them? Or are you waiting to attack again and say how you're feeling and your opinion? And when you've done that, think, has that escalated or has that de-escalated that argument? Now, the chances are you're starting to escalate it. Because what you're doing at that point is you're going, this is how I'm feeling. Then the other person goes, this is where I'm feeling. There's no meeting point. Actually, if we've moved a place into curiosity, and we have arguments over the smallest things in life with the people we care about the most. And if we can ask those questions and move again from that why question, well, why didn't you? To what were the reasons? Talk to me about your day. And then suddenly you can understand that they see the world slightly differently from you. They have different priorities. And it might still annoy you, that original thing, but then you've got a choice. Are you going to carry on, but this is what it means for me, and then hopefully then the space for you to share how your feeling is? Or do you go, actually, I get your point of view. This is why I expected X, Y, Z. But actually, I really understand. And that's come from that curious. I seek to understand before being understood. Because I want to learn. I want to get all that information first. It's especially when I'm dealing with conflict. I want all that information, and then I can decide. Now, I'm not going to judge you whether you still want to share out your views and everything, but get that from that curiosity. What am I not seeing from this? How can I get all that information?
Yeah, we did one of our previous podcasts was on conflict management, and curiosity fits into that in a big way, because when you lead with curiosity, when you understand things from someone else's perspective, it gives you clarity, it gives you awareness of the situation. I had someone on one of my coaching courses a while back, and she used the principle of in a disagreement in conflict management, and this isn't just leadership stuff, these were life skills, time, space, or vent. And at the beginning of any conflict, and she was talking about how this was with, if she had an argument with her other half, with her partner, do you want time? Do you want some space? Or do you want to vent? And I thought it was a really nice way to de-escalate, to calm things down, to say, again, it's the intent, to say to someone, hey, look, I'm here if you need me, and I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to get defensive. And by the way, if this is about what I've done to offend you, to annoy you, to frustrate you, then I'm willing to take that feedback on board, because we're giving someone a space to give that in a constructive manner, rather than being in this defensive, judgmental manner. So it was a case of, look, do you want some time? Do you want to go and come back in half an hour and then we'll have a conversation? Do you want space? Shall I leave you to it, and therefore we'll catch up tomorrow, whenever's good for you? Or do you want to vent? Do you just want to get it out your system? And I've worked with different people that need different things. And there was one guy in particular I think I spoke about him on the conflict management episode. But again, for him, it was about vent. He just needed to get it out of his system. So I learned that about him, and almost that question of, do you want to vent? Is now the time? Yeah, it is. And let's go.
And I think that brings us to, what does curiosity create? It creates that trust between two people. When you have got that relationship where another thing that it allows, you're empowering someone to make that decision. You're empowering someone to give you more information. You're empowering someone to educate you. That's a real special connection with someone, because they don't feel like they're in a judgment space. Pure curiosity removes judgment. Because I'm not there to judge you, I'm there to learn. I'm there to get more information. Because when I get more information, in a business sense, that's when innovation happens. That's when your mindset and my mindset together are worth much, much more than individual. It's not about me, it's about the overall best result that we're going to move forward. And that as a team creates that growth mindset. Because actually, I'm curious how you're thinking. I'm curious what you're seeing. I'm curious how you're judging it. I'm going to ask you those questions, and then I'm going to give my information, because we've got a trusting team that we're empowered to innovate, and then together we will grow with that.
That growth mindset is a vital part of this, and I'm pretty sure we've all done it as leaders. I can reflect back on times when, managing a team, and I had one guy in particular that was very innovative, very creative, almost daily, certainly weekly, had a new idea about how the business should be run and what we should implement. And it's finding that balance of being curious and saying, oh, come on, tell me, what's your idea? What have we got? What's going to change the world today? Versus it was probably, and I'm just making numbers up, but maybe 1 in 50 ideas that were credible, but I didn't want to squash that with him. I needed that to come up. And so even in those moments where he'd be talking about an idea, my curious mind is going, okay, well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions just to see where this takes me. Let's open up a little bit of information. Again, let's build this awareness. And then we might get to the point where we go labelled shutout. So we've spoken about shutout. Our labelled shutout is, I like it, good idea. Currently, we don't have the budget for this. Let's revisit in 6 months' time. 3 levels of curiosity.
Yep.
Do you want to talk us through through those?
Yep. So we start off at that level 1. And that's, I guess, where we're curious about facts. We want data. We're sort of asking those questions. And at times we're asking leading questions because we're trying to get that data around, or maybe you're just trying to find out what's happened. So actually, it is quite factual. You're taking out emotions at the time and just giving me the details. That second level is all about that relational curiosity. How is someone feeling? This situation's happened. Okay, how are you feeling about it? Suddenly, that becomes quite a personal question. You're trying to understand the world through their eyes. You're trying to understand what's happened and what they saw at that level. And then 3, it's transformational. So this is all your values-based question, your purpose ones. These require those deeper questions. At a coaching level, if you're starting to move to that transformational value curiosity, you're doing something right because something's being unlocked, something's being opened. Why did you feel like that? Talk to me about a previous occasion where something similar happened. Were your emotions exactly the same? What would have been the best outcome for you in this situation? That's where it really starts to put into that values and purpose level. I'm not just asking about facts. I'm just not asking about how you're feeling there. I'm understanding really those deep emotions and some of the things that could have affected it.
That's the scaffolding for me. That's the bit where we go, tactical curiosity is about the facts and the figures. Like you say, no emotion, just give me the stats. I don't need to do anything else at this moment in time. Maybe a little bit of crisis management. Right, tell me exactly what's happened here. So we've got a customer complaint. I need to know the detail. Give me the detail. At this moment in time, I'm not too worried about how you feel about it and what I'm thinking about it. Just give me the detail so I can do something with it. Then we start to bring in the people element, that relational curiosity, as you said, where we start to understand the emotional side of it. So how does that make the customer feel? What do you feel having to deal with that situation that maybe we could have avoided had we prepared better, or our systems were running smoothly as they should do, whatever that might be. But we start to understand the people behind it. And this is why, to me, that I'll go back to that scaffold. That's why we level up. And then the transformational bit is then the people side. It's understanding the facts and the figures. It's understanding the people, but it's the so what. Because we could look at, what did that make you feel, Darren, when you had to deal with that situation with that client or with a colleague or with your laptop breaking down, whatever that might be? What did you feel about that? Oh, I was very frustrated. It was very annoying doing that. Now, if we just leave it there, we're not in that growth mindset. We're not developing. We're not learning anything. If we move that into transformational, and this is where the coaching comes in as well. So what did that make you feel? Oh, very frustrated, very annoying, couldn't get on my job. Okay. What do we do about it? How do we fix this? And now we've fixed it, what are we going to put in place so it doesn't happen again? Because then we get the impact of curiosity. Then we get to the point where it makes a difference to my life, to your life, to the client's life, whoever's life is involved in it. But when we get to that level of transformational curiosity, that's when we start to get real impact.
And they work together, because you can't just jump to level 3 with someone. Well, why are you feeling like that? Just as your first question, because you haven't built up that trust. What most people are used to is being judged. So they're straight on the defensive. So your first question around that tactical curiosity, tell me what happened. They're like, oh, this feels different. So actually they start to open up. And then you go, how did that make you feel? Oh, okay. And you've built that trust that I'm not being judged, because they're generally asking questions about how I'm feeling instead of just jumping in and assuming a situation. And that's what I'm used to. I'm used to a leader, a manager, someone else in my life judging what I do and either praising me or telling me off. Very rarely do people ask me questions. And suddenly I do feel empowered as a human. I'm willing to open up. And actually, I'm willing to go on a growth journey more than those people that say you have to improve.
Ultimately, that's what it's about, isn't it? Empowerment, autonomy.
It's all about people. It's all about giving people the space to be themselves, to grow and be their natural best. It's all about going, I value you. That's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we talk about some of the obstacles to true curiosity?
So the biggest obstacle is assumptions. What am I assuming about this situation? What are my biases saying? What is my previous knowledge on them going to influence my behaviour? So easy. We don't judge into that curiosity is because we've already decided what's happened. And at times we jump into curiosity, or we think we've jumped into curiosity, but we ask very leading questions and judgmental questions. We use lots of why questions in it. That means that they're not opening up. We're not opening our mind up ourselves, and we're not creating knowledge because we are assuming certain things about a situation. Asking questions takes time. I could just jump in. I could say you didn't do it right, and then we can leave. You won't feel empowered, and you probably won't improve. But I feel like I've told you need to improve, and when you don't improve, I'll blame you later on. But it's, we're all time poor at the moment, and really exploring curiosity, understanding someone else's point of view does take time. So actually, sometimes the easier option isn't.
That leads us down the path of, if we're an L&D manager, if we're a HR manager, or any leader or manager in the business, but if we're working with employees and we move away from that, or we're in that space of, I haven't got time to deal with that, so I'm just going to tell you. And then we might be a middle manager, so then we're getting pressure from above, and our employee hasn't met their targets, which, let's be real, comes back to, we should be supporting that individual anyway. And this is a problem with it. If we're saying that I've told them 5 times, and I've heard this so often, I've told them 5 times that they need to do this, and they haven't changed, they haven't learned. Well, of course they haven't, because you may have told them 5 times in an email and they don't respond well to written communication, and it wasn't very clear, and you've put a whole load of waffle in an email, so they don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. But worse than that, they don't know how to develop and grow. And if we're using time as an excuse not to be curious, we're in that space where we're going to blame others. And then, when our manager's saying to us, look, why are your team not hitting targets? Oh, well, I'll keep telling them they're not good enough. They can't do the job. Well, now hang on a second. It might be that they haven't got the right skills yet. They haven't got experience yet. They're not on the right learning curve yet. Let's be curious. Let's understand that individual and understand, let's look at it from positive. So we've hit targets this month. What's happened? What did you do to hit those targets? What did you do to get that, let's talk sales, get that lead into an opportunity, into a deal, into a conversion of a sale? What did you do to make that successful? And this other one that wasn't successful, what happened there? No judgment. Let's take the assumptions, take the judgment away from it, and let's lead with that intent behind the question, which then will extract the information and, as we've said, empowers others.
And nothing changes if nothing changes. And the only change we've got control over is ourselves. And we can't change without awareness. And the only way we create that awareness from other people is curiosity. So actually, you're just going to keep on getting those poor results, not because of other people's behaviours, but because of your own. Create that awareness, get some curiosity.
The other big part of this that's an obstacle for me is the fear of vulnerability and leaders not allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And for me, it's a bit of a mindset piece that if I go into a room, if we've got a team meeting, for example, and I work with some very, very good people, very good at what they do as well. And I'm in that environment where I may be leading and I don't have to be the expert in the room. Now that mindset then allows me to ask questions that sometimes I already know the answer to, but I want to check that someone else knows the answer to that. Or I want to ask it because it's not about empowering me, because I know I could give that answer. But if I ask that question, if I lead with curiosity, it gives someone else the opportunity, as you said earlier on, it gives them their voice. So that person that is maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome or a bit of lacking of confidence or a bit more introvert, if I ask that question to the team and then they come up with that response, positive reinforcement off the back of it, great idea. What a great idea. Tell us more about that. All of a sudden you get this huge lift in the room, and all because I've been a little bit vulnerable. And if people think that I didn't know the answer, so be it. It doesn't matter, because I'm comfortable that I did. But more importantly, what I've done is bring the room up.
Yeah, and you link vulnerability to judgment there, and I just think we're worried about being judged by others. And Mel Robbins' book, Let Them judge you. If they don't think you're a good leader because you're empowering your people, let them. But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to carry on because you value your people? Do you really want to work for someone like that? Or if it's people beneath you that don't respect someone that doesn't have the answer there, are they the right people to work for you? Do you need a different team? So let them. Don't be worried about stuff outside of your control. Be the leader, be the human being that you want to be. Because A, you'll be happier, and B, the chances are, especially if you come from curiosity, you'll empower others to actually believe in themselves. And if you can make others believe in themselves, not only can you achieve whatever you want, they can as well.
I genuinely think that the best leaders I've ever worked with are the ones that are the most curious, and they lead with intrigue, and they are inquisitive, and they ask great questions, and then they stay silent. How do we build deeper curiosity then? What are some of the things that we could do that allow us to build this up and to become masters of curiosity? Because you said right at the beginning, we spoke about it being a zero talent skill, but not everyone's mastered it yet, and you can, by the way. So what are some of the things that we could do?
Well, the first thing is that mindset. What am I going in there for? Am I being curious for me? Or am I being curious to learn, to understand, to get knowledge from that other person? And a lot of that's around removing that judgment. So it's about going, what am I assuming, or what am I judging this person for first? I'm going to put that to the side because I'm here to learn. So near enough, the slate's clean. I'm here to understand. When I've understood, that's when that judgment can come back into play, because then I can start weighing up. That leads us into an ask first, tell later. Ask those questions. What are you assuming about a situation? Just because you've seen certain body language to you that's unacceptable doesn't mean that what you're seeing is the true picture. So we really need to ask those questions to really understand the situation. That helps us, again, remove those judgments. Because we have to be willing to be wrong. We have to willing to grow. We have to willing to not be the smartest person on that subject in the room. Because the reality is, you can walk into lots of rooms and you won't be the smartest person on the subject. There will always be someone else. So don't worry about it, because that is all based in stuff that's outside of your control. That's how other people feel about you. So ask those questions if you believe as a leader that's the best way of doing it.
Mindset shift as well on that, because when I was certainly younger, that I'd have felt like I had to have the answers in the room. And when I shift that round, and the podcast is a great example of this. Some of the guests we've had on the podcast are unbelievable. Some are really well known, world class, top 30 coach, for example, world leading hostage negotiator. Others have not had that title as such, but they're incredible guests. And I sit here going, I'm just going to learn. This is a learning opportunity. I can pick up so much from these people. Even though, you and I talk about leadership all day, every day, I can learn. And every single time I speak to someone, I'm learning. And again, that mindset shift of going, hang on, if I'm curious, it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah. And, and you can do that from anyone. That person that makes your coffee, that barista knows more about coffee than you do. Ask them how they do it. That person that puts baked beans on the shelf probably knows more about storing food in a safe way and the value of certain food and what the difference is than you do. Ask them the question. You can learn from everyone. whatever the role, whatever hierarchy you're in, empower them, listen to their voice, make them feel heard, because that's when humans add value to other human beings. Because it's all about moving into that empathetically listening. Getting emotion, both from yourself and from others. How are people truly feeling? What we've got to think about any conversation is, you're giving up a part of your life and I'm giving up a part of my life that we will never get back. And so often we're thinking about what we're going to have for dinner or what judgments I'm making about the situation and, all of that stuff. Just sit there and listen. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your life, or even worse, that of someone else, by going in sort of that half-hearted way. Go in to truly listen, to truly learn, to truly engage with what they're saying. And then that will educate you and hopefully move towards that best outcome of a situation, the most innovative outcome, and hopefully helps that growth mindset within an organisation.
I'm thinking, just talking now, I'm just taking myself back about 20 years, and there was this guy I knew that I think he was the most curious person I've ever met in my life. To the point, I was early 20s, whatever I was back, 20 years ago. And then I thought, this guy's really annoying. Stop asking me questions. And, I'd bump into him and it was question after question after question. And now, fast forward, with everything I understand about psychology and leadership and how we connect with other humans, I hope he still does it. I hope he's still that curious, because it would have put him in a really good place. There's a little bit of a caveat with, let's not allow that to become an interrogation or an interview when we meet people. When we ask open questions, what's on your mind? What have you been up to this week? What's your biggest win this week? What's going on at work? What's going on in life? When we ask those really open questions, it comes across as genuine and authentic. So let's ask really open questions that extract information, that show to people we want to be in the conversation.
I think the great thing is you remember him from 20 years ago. If you said, could you get someone to remember you in 20 years' time? You go, yeah. And so curiosity sounds like it worked really well.
Yeah, Jonathan Chanel's name was. Hopefully he listens. I'm going to share a little story with you, and this is from Ted Lasso, which was on Apple TV, an incredible series. I'd go and watch it, and it was much more than a series on Netflix. There's a bit of comedy in there, but there's lots to learn around sort of leadership aspects. So the show follows Ted, an American football coach hired as the manager of fictional Premier League club AFC Richmond, and his mantra is believe, and he leads with curiosity. And there was a great moment in one of the episodes, and it comes when Ted is challenged to a game of darts by Rupert program, who assumes that Ted can't play darts. So he makes an assumption, which is everything that we've been talking about. As Ted throws the winning darts, he produces a memorable speech about curiosity. Guys have underestimated me my entire life, he said, and for years I never understood why. It used to really bother me. Then one day I was driving my little boy to school and I saw this quote by Walt Whitman. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that. So I get back in my car and it hits me. All of them fellas that used to belittle me, not a single one of them was curious. They thought they had everything all figured out, so they judged everything and they judged everyone. And I realised that their underestimating of me, who I was, had nothing to do with it, because if they were curious, they would have asked questions. Questions like, have you played a lot of darts, Ted? Which I would have answered, yes, sir, I have, every Sunday afternoon at a sports bar with my father from the age of 10 until I was 16 when he passed away. Go and watch it, because it's such a big moment in the show. And for me, that sums up curiosity brilliantly. if he'd have asked that question, you're so right. If he'd have asked that question, have you played a lot of darts? You extract so much information. Or what's your experience of playing darts? What's your understanding of darts? What's your favourite thing about darts? And you just get the insight around it of, oh, do you know what? What's your best memory around darts? I loved it because I used to play with my dad every Sunday, and these are my memories of it. So we start to build this picture up, and again, it's trying to stay away from the judgment side of it. But when we build this picture, we understand that individual, and then we can be even more curious around
100%. 100%. I think it's time for the sound bites.
Yeah, go for it.
So let's start with that tactical curiosity, story you just said. Find out that basic information, but true magic happens in that transformational curiosity. Because the beauty of that story is he used to play with his dad until he passed away. So you can imagine the emotions attached to that game. He probably didn't stop playing because he has so many emotions attached to it that we would have learned even more. We have to manage ourselves. We have to self-regulate at times using emotional intelligence, stay out of judgment, and be genuinely interested. But most of all, curiosity is a mindset. It's about creating that awareness because we value them and we want to grow.
Love it. And agree, of course. Look, for me, I think we always come back to be able to take personal responsibility for something. It starts with awareness. How do we build awareness? We lead with curiosity. So next time you're not sure what direction to go, ask an open question, genuinely care, listen, and stay curious and stay in that moment. And it's amazing the things that you'll unpack. Thank you, Darren. Thank you for listening as well. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave some comments, let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you next time on Sound Leadership. The Sound Leadership podcast was produced by Media First. To learn more about the media crisis and communications training, visit mediafirst.co.uk. The editor and producer was Darren Wingham. The show was hosted, written and researched by me, Dan Boniface. A special thanks to all the team at Media First and the BCF Group for supporting the development of this podcast. To learn more about the management, leadership, training and coaching that the BCF Group offer, visit thebcfgroup.co.uk or get in touch by emailing hello@thebcfgroup.co.uk. Finally, a special thanks to our exceptional guest today, who you can contact via the BCF Group.